Hi there everybody, welcome back to today's video. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's video about the Eredivisie and the decisions they made to get the season cancelled without any title winners or relegations or anything like that. In that video yesterday I was talking about the possibility of other leagues around Europe potentially following suit and maybe cancelling their seasons, or what plans are actually going to be put in place to get football back up and running around the continent. So after that video was published, did a bit of research online as to what the different officials around Europe are doing, the respective heads of their leagues and stuff like that, and I've managed to find out a bit of information really. I've got some information here about Italy, Spain, France and the Premier League. So if I keep looking like that, then I've made some notes on my laptop, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm just reading off a few notes here and there. So the first thing I managed to find out was in Italy. Now, obviously Italy are getting absolutely ravaged by this virus. Thankfully, the numbers are coming down in that country. But quite understandably, sport and life in general in Italy is taking a bit of a back seat while they try and get this virus under control. I think they've got the highest death toll in Europe at the moment. So, obviously all efforts, completely understandable. Sport takes a back seat, and preserving life is at the forefront of everybody's mind. So, however, an announcement was made by their Italian by Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte yesterday. He announced that professional sports teams are allowed to resume training on May the 18th. So that's not just individual training. So they announced last week that individual training would take place from May the 4th onwards. So, players would be able to go back to their clubs in small clusters, train apart from each other and regain a bit of fitness from May the 4th, which is next week. I believe it could even be Monday actually next week. So it does look like they're looking to get the season back underway between the 27th of May and the 2nd of June apparently, which, we're talking, I mean, it's the 27th of April today, so if they're looking at the 27th of May, it's only a month away, which would be fantastic news, really. I think that a lot of people who have been through hell with this virus would very much welcome back some sort of normality to try and get things back underway. So, for Conte, the Italian Prime Minister, to come out and say that's excellent news, and hopefully the clubs will take every precaution just to try and get things back underway again. So that'll be great news. I know that there are a lot of clubs, clubs like Roma who they've agreed 4-month pay cuts. So no players, no staff will accept any pay for 4 months to help the other more needing members of staff at the club, like volunteers and officials and stuff like that. They will get paid as a priority over the players and the management staff, which is a fantastic touch, really. In times like this, you really do need people to pull together, and it's great to see that Italy and a lot of their staff and players are doing that. So like I say, from May the 4th, so from Monday next week, we should start to see some movement in Serie A regarding players going back to their clubs and starting their training. And that moves on to Spain. So I read an article earlier on, I think it was on The Guardian. Their country's health minister, Salvador Illa, their name. Not sure if it's a man or a woman. I would imagine with the name Salvador, I'm pretty sure that's a male. But they said that elite sports are unlikely to return until the summer. We're kind of not looking at the next few weeks. The timeline for them getting back to training their their La Liga clubs, it looks to be the 29th of May, the 7th of June or the 28th of June. I think that the June dates are the ones where actual matches will start to get played. So there does look to be a little bit of correlation in regards to the Italian the news coming out of Italy regarding their training. It looks as if it might be a little bit later than Italy, I would imagine it's going to be mid-May that their clubs will get back to normal. Well, not get back to normal, but will at least start to do a little bit of fitness training at the training grounds. And then, it looks as if the 7th of June or the 28th of June is when La Liga is likely to return. I mean, it is likely that it might be a bit later because Spain seem to be quite conservative with their rehabilitation after this virus. So, there are dates on the table. I know that Tebas, who is the league's president, or he's a top dog in Spain's Premier Division. He will be making the decisions as to what goes on there. So, fingers crossed they can get a date in together. I know that talking about Roma taking pay cuts, I know that Barcelona and their players accepted up to a 70% pay cut each. Which is crazy, really. When you consider Messi, who's on nearly £1 million a week, to accept a 70% pay cut is a considerable amount of money that's not in his pay packet. I'm sure he's not going to be going to food banks on 300 grand a week, but it's still a really, really good thing to do. And it's nice to see that the players are all coming together and chipping in. So Spain looks like it might be the end of June, beginning of July. So still got a while to go for that one yet. And then we move on to the Premier League. So there was an article, I believe it was in The Guardian. Was it in The Guardian? Yeah, it looks like it was in The Guardian. They've calculated that a minimum of 300 people are required for a match to take place, even behind closed doors. So, as and when football gets back, I know that the Premier League, I think they're aiming for a June the 8th restart of the league, which gives them, about 6 weeks to get players back up to full fitness. They estimate that 300 people on a match day are going to be needed inside the stadium. So this news article in The Guardian states that people such as match reporters, stewards, ground staff, scoreboard operators and other media outlets such as radio commentators are accounted for within the 300. All these people, you don't really think about it when you go to a match on a match day. You got the St John's ambulance guys that are there as well. There are a lot of people which you don't realise. You've got catering, you've got chefs which do all the players' food on the day, the kit man, all of these people all add up. So, even behind closed doors, there's still a considerable amount of, hands to the pump that's going to be needed to get football back up and running. And, of course, that's everywhere. The Bundesliga, they'll be exactly the same. I know that they were accounting for 200 people. So, where this extra 100 have come from in England, I'm not too sure. But, all of these things need to be considered, especially with the health professionals. Do you want to be taking people out of hospitals, people out of ambulances to sit them 90 minutes during a match when they might not even be needed, when, their skills and expertise could be much, put to much better use elsewhere? Now, I'm sure all of these things are going to get accounted for eventually. Police officers as well, with current lockdowns and stuff like that. Do we need police officers at games? If there's no if there's no fans there, you could argue that potentially police officers aren't required there. Maybe if there's a bit of turn and throwing in the tunnel and you need a copper to try and break it up, then maybe that's required. But with those kind of things, I think the health professionals are the ones that are most needed at a match. In case of a serious injury or anything like that, you need a stretcher or anything like that to try and help get a player off the pitch as soon as possible and provide medical assistance. So it'll be interesting to see what the Premier League do with that. I know that there was a story coming out a couple of weeks ago that the 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff ban, which is in place in the UK, basically, if you're not familiar with it, I think it's a law which states that no live sport, I think it's no live football can be televised between the times of 3 and 5 p.m. on a Saturday. And obviously you've got kind of like Soccer Saturday and stuff like that, which it kind of covers all the scores coming in, but there's no live football between them dates. That's now been lifted in the UK until further notice. So one thing you can expect when football is back up and running in this country, you can expect football matches to be televised 3 p.m. on a Saturday. So you're going to be looking at football every single day of the week, every possible hour on the telly. So get that Sky Sports subscription unfrozen as soon as football comes back, because you're going to get your money's worth, put it that way. I think it's a really good thing to do, even if it is going to be behind closed doors. The pressure and the joy that football brings, the pressure that it lifts off people, even for 2 hours a week, the crap that everyone's going through at the moment, 90 minutes of live football will really help some people, but especially people that have been going through a hard time, with jobs and money and illness. It's a really rough time at the moment to live through. So, I know for a fact that football will start to bring people together again. It'll be that release that some people need, just for them 2 hours a week, just to get people back into the swing of normality a little bit, just to watch something that, will take their mind off things. I think that'll be really good, but it has to be under the right circumstances. There's no point rushing this back, because, players going in for tackles together, players going in for headers together, it can soon, this virus can soon spread amongst the players. So, I think it was agreed in La Liga in Spain that there'd be 500 tests needed a week to test players and to test officials, and I think that was one of the rules that was stated. If sport was to come back, regular testing is to be essential. I think they were going to be tested 2 or 3 times a week. So, that's another thing to consider. You need to ensure that there are enough tests available for these players to take them, without taking them away from the NHS and from the national health state. So, obviously, if there isn't guarantees that the tests aren't available, then it's quite plain and simple that football won't go ahead. So all of these provisions have to be put in place. It's the club's responsibility, it's the government's responsibility in these countries, and it's the FA's responsibility. Each individual FA needs to ensure that they're not putting too many people at risk for this. And, if and when football does come back, it is safe and it's not putting people's lives at risk ultimately, because this virus is killing people. So you've got to be absolutely sure. So it does look like it's not far away now. Looking at around the continent, it does seem to be beginning to mid-May is when players are going to go back to training now. It's going to start with individual training sessions, and then once the government give the go-ahead, it does look like group sessions will then start to take place. And once the group sessions start to take place, I would imagine that matches will follow a couple of weeks after that. Obviously it's been a bit of an enforced pre-season, really. Not even these guys get this long off in pre-season. I think it's been 6 or 7 weeks since the last league game now. So everyone's desperate for it to come back, but hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel now. So stick with it, guys. It's not going to be too long now, and it's going to be fantastic if it does get back together. Nice weather, football on the telly all the time, get a barbecue on the go. It'll be great. So stay safe. I hope you enjoyed this little roundup. If there's any more information, then obviously I will give it to you. But if there's any recommendations you want me to do in the future, any requests for kind of football news, anything like that, then just let me know. And stay safe, keep washing your hands. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.